Human development is an interesting topic, and there are many perspectives you can use to try to understand it. In this video, we will discuss two different theories you can use to understand human development. These theories are Erikson's 8 stages of man and Jean Piaget's cognitive developmental stages. We will describe each of these theories, the similarities and differences between them, and how you can apply these theories in real-world situations. We hope that this video will give you new ways to understand human development concepts and that your understanding of these concepts will help you better navigate situations related to human development. The 8 stages of man were developed by Erikson, a German psychoanalyst. The 8 stages of man can be thought of as a lifespan theory of development, as it spans the entirety of a human's life, not just childhood. Erikson asserts that every stage of life, from infancy to maturity, features a unique developmental crisis. For example, in infancy, the central conflict is between trust and mistrust, as a child learns to form an attachment to their caregiver. In adolescence, the central conflict is between identity and role confusion, as an individual must figure out their values and their place in the world. Each stage has a central conflict, and in each of these stages, an individual's sense of self is shaped both by their social interactions and their successful completion or lack thereof of these central tasks. In order for healthy development to occur, an individual must successfully meet each of the central challenges that they encounter throughout the lifespan. Erikson's theory can be applied to any stage of life by finding ways to encourage an individual to meet the central challenge that is characteristic of their stage of development. For example, Erikson's theory may be helpful when considering parenting activities for a preschooler around 3 to 6 years old. At this stage, Erikson would consider children to be in the initiative versus guilt stage of development, in which they desire greater independence and freedom in decision-making. As a parent or guardian, you could encourage your child in this stage of development to meet this challenge in a variety of ways. For example, you could allow them to choose which books you read to them, or you could allow them to choose the order in which you perform household chores together. Additionally, if your child breaks something, like one of their toys, you could involve them in the process of fixing it. All of these options give your child a greater sense of independence and allow them to exercise their skill in decision making, which encourages their mastery over the central conflict of this stage of development.
Next, we have Piaget's cognitive developmental stages. Piaget focused from birth to early adolescence. His first stage was known as sensory motor stage, and it's from infancy to 2 years old. During this time, children begin to coordinate their motor responses, they develop object permanence, and they have sensory curiosity. The next stage is pre-operational. This is from 2 years old to 7 years old. Children begin to use symbolic thinking, they can use proper grammar and syntax, but complex abstract thinking is still difficult for them. The next stage is concrete operational. This is from 7 years to 11 years old. Time, space, and quantity are better understood by children in this phase. The child understands the world through categories. The next stage, the final stage of Piaget's theory, is formal operational. This starts at around 11 years old and goes through the rest of the individual's life. The person has hypothetical and abstract thinking, and they can use strategy and planning. Next will be the application of Piaget's cognitive developmental stages. Piaget's theory can be applied to early childhood education. Many subjects could be taught in accordance with the stages of this theory, but especially for math, these stages can be especially beneficial to teachers and parents. A child in the sensory motor stage begins to understand that numbers exist, and this is the best time for teachers and parents to present children with activities that involve counting. These children are only as old as 2, so they are just starting to learn language, but this is the common time to teach counting, usually starting from 1 to 10. Next, in the pre-operational phase, children cannot yet view processes in reverse. So this is the time where teachers would present math equations as individual entities. You wouldn't necessarily expect a child to understand that because 3 plus 4 equals 7, that 7 minus 4 also equals 3. They would not immediately know that those two things are connected. The next stage is the concrete operational stage, and this is when children begin to have a better understanding of quantity and they can manipulate numbers. Teachers should create as many hands-on lessons as possible to encourage this learning. And the final stage, formal operational stage, is when children begin to put multiple steps together and understand the abstract thought pattern behind them. They can now solve more complex math problems without the need for explicit explanation. So while teachers would often present verbal word problems to younger children, when they hit the formal operational stage, they no longer need the explanation. They can see a math equation and understand what might go into it.
Erikson's and Piaget's theories share some common ground between their perspectives on development. Both theories frame development as discontinuous, as each theory contains stages that are distinct throughout the lifespan. Erikson and Piaget also view development through a cognitive lens, as they focus on mental development rather than physical or emotional changes. Additionally, each stage in both theories of development involves an individual overcoming a new challenge before progressing sequentially onto the next stage of development.
On this slide, we're going to discuss the differences between Piaget's theory and Erikson's theory. Erikson's theory covers the entire lifetime of a person, while Piaget only focuses on the time between birth and early adolescence. While Piaget does include the entire lifespan, he doesn't give us any more finite detail or smaller age ranges past 11 to 12 years old. Second, Erikson's stages of life attribute development to social interactions and learning, while Piaget's stages frame development as an automatic process. Erikson focused on emotional development, while Piaget focused on cognitive development. And a final difference is that Erikson interpreted development in relation to crises, while Piaget interpreted development in response to the individual's environment. Here are a few key takeaways from today's presentation. Erik Erikson's 8 stages of man focus on the entire lifespan of an individual and were developed based on a crisis the individual will experience at each stage. Jean Piaget's cognitive developmental stages focus on the individual's childhood and were developed based on what the individual is automatically gaining from their environment. Both theories are sequential ways to understand where an individual may be in their life and can be used to tailor educational experiences.